In 1935, the federal government launched its most ambitious New Deal visual arts initiative, the Federal Art Project.
As with other federal cultural projects at the time, this program sought to bring art and artists into the everyday life of communities throughout the United States through community art centers, exhibitions, and classes.
The Federal Art Project was created to provide work relief for artists in various media, painters, sculptors, muralists, graphic artists, and other artists with various levels of experience.
This program was aimed at conserving the talent and skills of artists who, through no fault of their own, found themselves on the relief rolls. The FAP ultimately employed more than 5,000 men and women over an 8-year span from 1935 to 1943.
In addition to aiding the unemployed, the program also sought to integrate the fine with the particular arts, and more especially the arts in general, with the daily life of the community.
Nobody really became rich or famous directly through this program. Northwest art historian Martha Kingsbury has written, but artists in areas like the Northwest receive two very valuable benefits: the recognition and status of having a respected profession and the encouragement that went with that, and, more practically, the time and materials made available by the paycheck, which enabled them to persist in their art.
Over the course of 8 years, FAP artists produced some of 108,000 paintings, 17,700 sculptures, 11,200 print designs, 35,000 poster designs, and 2,500 murals. During the 1930s, art was used in many different ways to imply different ideas. Painting was a way to express oneself through the use of colors and images. Artists use different techniques to get their message across. There are different types of painting, such as surrealism and abstract expressionism. Depending on the artist's strategy of painting, they choose their paints carefully. There are different types of paints to choose from, such as oil paint, watercolor, and charcoal.
The decade of the Great Depression saw the beginning of the American regionalist style, which emphasized local and regional competition that required artists to be tied to the area in which they competed. This encouragement and further emphasis, whose primary aim was to help foster a continual sense of national identity, ironically instead catered to the strengthening of individual regional identity. The WPA indirectly helped lead to the construction, distribution, and subsequent democratization of the American culture. An example of regionalist styles would be no better viewed than in Grant Wood's famous work, American Gothic. Other artists that also adopted the style of regionalism include John Stuart Curry, Thomas Hart Benton, Georgia O'Keeffe with her southwestern themes, and Edward Hooper with his realistic scenes from city life. Going back to Grant Wood, he was one of the famous artists of the 1930s. He went to France to study about different types of art. He was interested on the Renaissance style. He was raised in a religious house with his sister. One of his famous artwork was the American Gothic, in which he describes his life from his perspective. His life is tough to live in the Midwest. His styles of paintings were Impressionism and Post-Impressionism. His famous painting was the American Gothic, which was displayed in the Art Institute of Chicago. He helped his community by helping artists get through depression by teaching them new tactics of art and life. He became a great supporter of regionalism in the arts and lectured throughout the country on art.
Edward Hopper was one of the greatest artists in the 1930s as well. He was a realist painter as well as a printmaker. He was widely known due to his expertise on oil paintings. His paintings contained personal vision of modern American life. He had always had interest in art since he was 5 years old. By his teens, he learned how to work with charcoal, watercolor, and oil. He took interest in nature and political cartoons. One of his famous works was The Nighthawks, which was mainly known for its details and contained different shapes to give a unique look. Many of his paintings are not meant to be interacting. He had supported art greatly in the US by influencing his techniques on younger generation artists. Artists at the time experimented in many different styles of art. For example, the murals from the period are filled with images of stern-faced scientists at work, laborers toiling in touring factories, and grand cities filled with skyscrapers. In a way, they represented the advancements in society.
One of the most impressive success stories during the early years of the FAP was that of the abstract expressionist Arshile Gorky. Between 1935 and 1937, Gorky worked for the mural division and was paid a little over $2,000. Arshile Gorky used cubist and biomorphic abstraction to present the futuristic industrial shapes and symbols of an American ship. In this picture you will see very soon. Made for a very large international fair that focused on the future, unfortunately, his design was rejected, as he created it for the dining room of a ship for the Marine Transportation Building at the New York's World Fair of 1939.
Jackson Pollock, American painter, was one of the leading exponents of abstract expressionism, particularly the form known as action painting. After considerably stylistic experimentation, at 1947, he developed the radical drip painting technique that became his hallmark. During the 1940s, Pollock painted his first wall-sized work called Mural, which was obviously a mural. This painting is his breakthrough in a totally personal style in which compositional methods and energetic linear inventions are fused with surrealist free association of motives or unconscious imagery.
Now, although the artistic movement united the American people and allowed them to be proud of their country, it did not end well for very many of these famous artists that are well known today at that time. Unfortunately for them, since there was such a surplus of artistic work, it was used for very many activities that it was not meant for. For example, here's a fun fact to wrap up this presentation and bring it to a close. In December of 1943, the government auctioned off thousands of WPA-funded paintings in a warehouse in Queens. Now, paintings weren't sold individually but by the pound. Reportedly, a local plumber purchased a large number of paintings in bulk for the purposes of insulating pipes with used canvases. But he discovered that when the pipes got too hot, the melting paints produced an odd smell. That's our presentation. Hope you all enjoyed it. See you in class.
During the 1930s, art was used in many different ways to imply different ideas. Painting was hold up.
Hey!
Hey, man.
No technology in my class. No one became Mr. Famous directly through Northwest Art Historian.
Miss Sam, you see this? She's doing it on purpose! She's destroying us!
She's sabotaging us!
Sabotage!
Ah! Can we put that in as bloopers?
Oh yeah.